All right, friends, welcome back to the Toxin Free-ish podcast. I just had a 6-week hiatus from the podcast and wasn't even quite sure if I was going to be coming back. But here we are. We are coming back. The podcast is coming back. I have a lot to share. And, one of the things that I have not really dove into and talked about at length, but something that I do talk about on Instagram, questions I get a lot of, how do you get off of your thyroid medication? What does that look like? What does that healing look like? Why are you doing it? Why does it matter? And also, that kind of mixes in with my Hashimotos and healing my Hashimotos and having my Hashimotos in remission. And this has been such a long process for me. And I didn't do it alone. I did it with a lot of support, and I'm still in it. I'm still in the thick of it. And I think it's important to talk about the messy, middle, thick, hard pieces of this conversation in order to do it justice. So I brought Claire Cook back onto the podcast. You were here 2 years ago. We had not this exact conversation 2 years ago, but we had a related conversation 2 years ago. You are my cousin, my best friend, but also for a period of time and have continued to be my coach, my life coach, my health coach, my macro coach, all of those things, my cheerleader, my support system. And I just didn't feel like I could have this conversation without also having you here to kind of talk through your perspective on a lot of this stuff, using your experience with how many people and clients that you have taken through the weight loss process specifically, because when we start talking about Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism, a lot of times with women, other than brain fog, the number one thing is weight. It's weight gain. They can't lose the weight. They're doing everything. I was doing everything. There's a lot that happens when you start messing with your thyroid hormone. So Claire, welcome back. It's been 2 years.
Aw, I'm so excited to do this with you. I can't believe that was 2 years ago because I feel like we just did it. But holy cow, what's happened with you and me personally with business, what I've seen from clients over 2 years, I'm so pumped to talk about this because I feel like I can bring so much more to the table now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Some of your client wins are unbelievable. Well, I'm going to start off. I'm going to kick off and talk a little bit for people who are not familiar with my story. I have had hypothyroidism most of my adult life. Learned that I had hypothyroidism when I was dealing with some infertility, had a miscarriage, figured out, okay, I have hypothyroidism, was finally able to get a full thyroid panel to figure that out. And by the way, episode number 6 is all about why everybody needs a full thyroid panel. The majority of endocrinologists and doctors in this country will not volunteer to do a full thyroid panel. They're only going to check your TSH, or they're going to check, one other thing. And that is total BS. And it's the reason why I went undiagnosed for years and years and years. So please get a full thyroid panel. So I dealt with my hypothyroidism for many, 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 many years. I was taking medication. And I think it's important to say this because the synthetic medication did not work for me. Synthroid made me sick. I gained so much weight and so much inflammation. I finally landed on Armour thyroid, which is a natural desiccated thyroid. That worked great for me. So that's what I've been on all of these years. And my hypothyroidism was so bad that my thyroid basically didn't work at all. Like I was taking what my doctor considered the highest amount of thyroid supplement that she had prescribed to a single doctor, because that's how, literally just my thyroid gland did not work at all. And it wasn't until years later that I learned I had Hashimoto's, which most people that have hypothyroidism, and this afflicts women so much more than men, most of them, not all of them, most of them have an underlying Hashimoto's disease, which is an autoimmune that impacts and attacks your thyroid. So I worked for many, many years to heal my Hashimoto's. I actually have a full episode about it, episode 73, if you want to go back and listen to it. But right around the time that I got my antibodies down and healed my Hashimoto's, my doctor was like, okay, it's time to start weaning you off your medication. I started that process, and that is when I really started having the weight gain, the symptoms back, the inflammation back. Because when you lower your medication, when you're on thyroid medication, your body, you are purposely putting your body back into a hypothyroid state so that it can trigger your body to say, you need to make more of your own thyroid hormone. Because what happens when you're on a ton of thyroid medication for a long period of time, number one, there's long-term consequences to that, like osteoporosis and other things. But also, you are telling your thyroid gland, don't make any more. And when you start to see your thyroid stimulating hormone go down, that's when you know you're taking too much and your thyroid needs to start working again on its own. So I started titrating down little by little and started having symptoms. And it was emotionally traumatic for me to kind of wake up after like a week and a half. And not even kidding. And I'm short. I'm like 5'1 3/4" on a good day. Put on like 8 pounds on my like tiny frame. And the mindset shift that had to go with, if I want to get healthy and I want to get off, I want to stop putting all of these things into my body that my body doesn't need. And I want to like heal my thyroid gland, which would then help with so many other symptoms and other things in my life and other parts of my body. I needed to be okay with having some periods of time where I weighed more and still love myself and love my body and think about the long term. Like, where did I want to be in 3 years? Not what's happening this week. And so I hired you. I worked with you. It was incredible. People can go listen to that conversation. I thought I knew how to be healthy. I thought I knew how to eat. I thought I knew how to work out. I thought I knew a lot until you. Like, I just learned so many different things that I think most people don't realize about the food we take into our body, our macro, our protein. I wasn't eating enough protein. I was eating way too much fat and not the right fat. I was either way over exercising or I was starving. I was like maybe hitting 1,000 calories a day. And that was also not a good thing. So we worked together. I got into incredible shape and I got strong. And the biggest thing that came out of that was my mindset. I learned how to have a long-term, day-to-day mindset and not allow my scale or allow a bad eating day or just symptoms, things not going right. That no longer became something that threw me into like an emotional spin. So I want to start there because I do want to kind of just update people on now where I am over the last 1.5 years, 2 years since we started working together, as I continue to go through and bring my thyroid medication down and a lot of the ups and downs that come with that I think people should be prepared to do. I also have to say I'm not a doctor. None of this is medical advice. This is me just sharing my own experiences and what I went through and then how I supported myself through it. So can we talk about mindset for a few minutes, actually?
Absolutely. I think we have got to talk about the elephant in the room, which is culture. And I think for so long and for so many decades, women have been told directly, like, you must diet. Skinny is what's popular. And that's what you should do because you'll get more attention. Going through the no carb diets to the higher fat only, to the ketos, to the paleos. And this has just been running rampant. It depends on the day. Now it's the Ozempic stuff. And it's like the goal through all of it is to be skinny. Okay. It doesn't matter what that means. It just means that's the goal. And it's so detrimental. And I've been guilty of that, right? Like I'm 42 this year. And I remember in my 20s thinking that. And of course, all of the ads, and that's the only women that are in that, right? So as women, I think we're like, yeah, it's there, whether, you want it to be or not, but that's just the culture. So it's fighting against the culture. And I think when I lost, I had my second baby and I was in the thick of like, well, how do I eat well? Like I'm still figuring this out. This is so frustrating. And I learned about macronutrients and I learned about how important it was to have balanced meals all day, but getting the right amount of nutrients throughout the day for me and my lifestyle and my goals, because everybody is so different. I had to think of food completely differently. And then it became, well, I wasn't getting enough protein, and that's most people. Carbohydrates are our friend, especially if you're super active. You need them. Now, in a Hashimoto situation, yes, the amount may look different, but again, different for everybody. And everyone needs good and proper fats. But what does that look like? And so I started to shift the mindset. I've never eaten more in my entire life.
Same.
That's been fascinating and still got results. And more importantly than that, I dived into my own journey. So experience is huge. And I went through my own homeopathic doctor who ran every lab under the sun for me to really understand how is this food affecting my actual hormones. And it was fascinating to learn where I was deficient and why, and what were we going to do to combat that naturally, and where could I pull it from food instead of having to rely on maybe even some supplement. And it just became this like, whoa, internal journey. And now I am so proud to announce that I just had gone to, like, it's been 2.5 years in the making and involving thyroid. She said, Claire, I don't think you need to take your NP thyroid anymore.
Yep.
And in addition to all these other deficiencies that I fixed, amazing. But it was a lot of work, but I had to shift my mindset around food and understand that these things are important. All categories, protein, fats, carbohydrates are very important to the body. They all do something very different.
Yeah.
But so many people have to get out of that mindset of, well, carbs are bad and fats aren't good for us, and I don't want fat. It's just shifting around and kind of ignoring what culture has said this entire time and doing our own deep dive and figuring that out too. And that's what I love to help people do.
And really shifting the mindset from the short term, like I think, like you said, diet culture. Because when I first started working with you, I weighed myself every day. That sucked. But then I loved it, because then I realized, when you realize how much your weight fluctuates from day to day, even just on a normal day, it kind of starts to be less of a big deal. The number on the scale doesn't really start like bother you anymore, because it's not about the number on the scale. And you did such a good job of keeping me focused on my goals, which were feeling better, not having flare-ups, not having the brain fog, having the energy to get through my entire day. And all of those things started happening before the scale went down. And by focusing on those things that matter, because when I talk to women, especially women with Hashimoto's, because I have such a huge Hashimoto's audience, they're exhausted all the time. And so in order to combat that, they're like, what should I be taking? Right? What supplement do I need? And I'm like, listen, I'm not bashing all supplements, but we also have a supplement culture problem where we think that if we just take supplements, that's magically going to heal our bodies, right? And that's not the case at all. Mm-hmm. And in fact, we're finding that the supplement industry is so whacked out that people are getting liver disease because they're over consuming and taking all of these supplements, and people are destroying their livers over it. So I'm very pragmatic when it comes to supplements, like only when necessary and when your blood work shows that you need it and you're, using it under the care of a doctor. But I really also started to think about, this isn't like for next week. This isn't for a vacation I'm taking in 3 months, although that was, going to Bali and knowing I was going to be in a bikini was definitely a motivator. I'm not saying those things aren't motivators, but it became about taking care of myself, and my wins started to look like, oh my gosh, I had energy all day today. Like I didn't want to take a nap in the afternoon and chug a bunch of coffee, which would then keep me up and keep me sleeping. My wins were, I slept 8 full hours without waking up in the middle of the night. That was a win. My win was going to the doctor and doing my next thyroid, panel, and her saying, okay, you're awesome. You're no longer hypothyroid. Your body adjusted and is healing itself. So now let's go down to the next level. I started counting those wins as more important than what I look like in the mirror. And that was so important for me.
1,000%. It's the mindset around food, right? And then it becomes the mindset around time. The fact that the goal is when we're 80, 90 years old, what do you want that to look like? And if you want to be a self-sufficient person that's not having to, be at the doctor every single day, you're able to move around, it becomes a lifestyle mindset shift. these things, like some of us have learned over the course of 20, 30 years with the information or the message that's being said, it's hard to undo. A lot of that takes time with the brain to almost rewire and think of things differently. And then when you do, it's not an overnight, oh my gosh, decision. I'll say the energy can be almost immediate because you're fueling differently. And that has almost an immediate effect, just like it does if you have pizza and 2 hours later, you're ready to take a nap. Eating well has the, reverse effects. So that's immediate. But in terms of the body composition changes and, seeing those wins, like it does, it's a marathon and not a sprint, but then that's what's making it sustainable. Whereas all of these other cultural things that have been told to us is, well, this is a quick fix and you can lose 30 pounds in a month. And then you're okay, but you're not fixing the habit structure. You're not changing the mindset. And if you're not doing that, then it's not going to matter. And then you've done more damage.
Yeah, the yo-yo, right? If you think about how many women have been on the yo-yo. So I actually want to dive into what you just said about the habits and get a little vulnerable for my audience here for a second, because, I try very hard to be authentic and open and honest online, but I also really keep my personal life kind of personal. But I do think that this conversation is important. And you and I talked about it ahead of time. And I said, I want to have this open conversation with my audience because I feel like there might be so many people out there that feel the exact same way that I do, or maybe in the exact same position that I have been in. And I want them to know that, like, even if you are in a place in your life where you have a lot of chaos, where you have a lot of emotional stress happening, where you have a lot of just stress in general. And I do feel like, especially on the internet right now, there are so many people who are spending time online, glued to the internet, with all of the divisiveness and all of the negativity and all of the black and white content and all that short-term content that like rots our brains. And I found myself in a position where I had just gone through a terrible but absolutely necessary divorce and had to move, immediately followed by having to make the decision to leave my job because I wasn't going to move my family back to San Diego. And then making the decision to work for myself and do this job full time. And pretty quickly realizing that what that meant was spending all of my time online, and the emotional detriment of what that did to me, of realizing and having a job that I did every day that I had kind of told everyone, I love this. This is all I've ever wanted to do. And it was all I ever wanted to do. I just wanted to do this. And then when it happened, I don't want to get emotional. When it happened, instead of me being happy and grateful, I started to really kind of spiral emotionally, because being online all the time and dealing with people saying awful things to you all the time and having to block bots and having to get fed this algorithm that's super negative no matter what you do, when that becomes your daily environment, it becomes really hard to wake up and go for a walk and spend time outside. It's hard to make the homemade meal. Like those stressors start to bleed out into your self-care and bleed out into your thoughts, your negative thought patterns, your negative food patterns. Like it all becomes hard. And so part of the reason why I'm talking about this is because I have people in my inbox that are regularly saying to me, I don't have time. I don't have time to take care. These are moms mostly. I don't have time to take care of myself. I can't imagine waking up one more hour earlier to like go to a gym. I can't imagine home cooking every single meal. And these are people who are in distress, in a stressful situation. And I want them to know that it's not black and white. You can do really small things that make a really big difference in your home. You don't have to go to a gym for an hour a day. You don't have to home cook every single meal. You don't have to, like, it's not black and white, and it's not all or nothing. And everything over the last year of my life that has been so hard and so stressful, including even the last few months of dealing with personal tragedy with my son's girlfriend and their family, and another child who potentially had some serious health issues that I was stressed about, to insurance, issues, and had a great job offer. Do I take the job and make this go back to the thing I love? Like, I am not living on an island where I'm the only person with emotional stressors or family stressors or health stressors or kids stressors. Like, we all live this life of stress, and then we spend time online where we get more stress. And so I want to talk about the small things that people can do to right their shit, because I have to say, and I told you this the other day when I asked you to come on so we could have this conversation, over the last year, all of the emotional stress that I have been going through behind the scenes with all of these changes in my life, the one constant was all the things you taught me. And so I didn't slide back. I didn't go back to my old habits, which were overworkout and undereat. I didn't go back to another even older habit, which was emotional eating. Like, I didn't fall back into any bad habits, even through a really hard year. And so I want to talk about those small things, those habits that people can adopt that can make a huge difference in their overall health.
Well, I'm proud of you, by the way, because it has been a hard year. And like you said, there's no one that's perfect. And I think that's the illusion online gives. Everyone has their stuff, right? It's just people don't always air it. So I commend you for being vulnerable. It's important for that. The habits, in my opinion, when I worked with the clients I've worked with, are hands down more important than talking about food. When I work with people, 90% of our one-on-one sessions is about, what did you do this week? How'd you feel about it? How'd you do on those baby action steps? Because if they can master them week after week after week, what happens? Well, it becomes natural, it becomes secondary. And then when life hits hard, they're not like, it just becomes, nope, this is my life now. I'm used to this now. And things might get a little ravaged, but I'm not going to go crazy and be, in the detriment that I might have been in before. I love to look at habits with clients, especially through the day-to-day lens of figuring out, what could we do tomorrow that is 1% better than what we did today? And if you're able to sleep an extra 15 minutes, that's a win. If you're able to get up and go for a 10-minute walk sometime in your day, that's a win. And if you continuously have the mindset of, okay, you know what, today wasn't great, but this was actually pretty good, and I didn't do so well here. And then tomorrow be like, okay, that's the one thing I'm going to do better on. And you do it. And you're constantly with the mindset of 1% better. Over time, that massively compounds, and you start to get changes and you start to get results.
Yeah. I think those little things and those little gratitudes of the things that we're grateful for, people don't realize how massive they are to your overall health and mindset. It can be the difference of you spiraling into negativity for the day or you feeling great, right?
100%.
So I'll tell you my small things that have saved me in the last year, because I have not had the energy to get into the gym. I haven't had this summer. I actually did great. I went out on my paddleboard every day out of really just emotional and mental health necessity to get as much sunshine. That was a big thing for me this summer, was like, be outside in the sun, get into the sunshine. But for me, I went through a long period of time where I could not make myself walk. So I would do squats in my house. I have an alarm on my phone that goes off every hour, and studies show 10 squats throughout the day, every hour, gives you the same physical benefit of walking, like 10,000 steps a day. Or I don't remember the exact study, if it was 8,000 steps or whatever they compared it to. But it is not that hard, even if you're sitting in a cubicle in an office, or if you're sitting at home working, or no matter what you're doing, anybody can stop and do 10 squats. It's the easiest thing if you just set an alarm. And that one thing, I do feel like that one thing for that long period of time that I wasn't really walking kept my muscles, kept my mental health. Like, that made a huge difference in such a little thing.
I mean, and that's not much of anything. Like you can work and squat probably at the same time. So if your habit stacking on top and you're feeling like, it's like you almost have to squat by itself, not necessarily. So I feel like finding little things like that where you can kind of blend what you do every day or you're obligated to do every day and find something else that you're like, I really want to do this, but where do I fit it in or how do I make it work? We have to remember that these little tiny efforts are a massive deal. And in a world where it's crazy, online life is crazy. So, sometimes feels like our entire world is falling apart online or socially or whatever. We can only do what we can control, right? So understanding too that by doing that every day, like you just said, helped so much in the long run. And it wasn't anything crazy that you did. You didn't leave the house. You weren't paying $50 a month for a membership at a gym somewhere. Like you still made it work and it made a huge deal. So the all or nothing is one thing with clients I've really got to work on a ton. People feel like if they didn't do it all, then they were a failure. And I get to work with people on what are the main things that you're wanting out of this. Let's tackle that every single day. And every single day you have to tell me, because I ask them to like thoroughly track their data. You got to tell me what was one thing you were really proud of? What are you grateful for today? And I force them to think about that because who sits around and thinks about that? Sometimes you're not asked to, so you don't do it. The accountability is a huge deal, right? But I also say, be real with me. Tell me what didn't go well. What was the one thing today that you were mad at yourself about, you were disappointed over? And then we talk through that too. And then we are able to come up with strategies of like, well, how are we going to combat that so that when this happens, what's the reaction? Or how are we going to be proactive so it maybe doesn't happen? And I get to help people figure out time management or what is their day looking like where they're able to insert things. Because I feel like an outside view can be really refreshing sometimes to someone who thinks they're drowning.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people feel like they're drowning. And I don't know. I know that for a fact because I even have students that paid money to take my class. And it's interesting. They want the material, they want to learn, but really they just want a non-judgmental space for support.
Right.
I mean, honestly, like I feel like people are craving that so bad. I feel like something you gave me was like this non-judgmental space to be like, yeah, I had like, I remember one time, I can't remember when I very first started what my fat macros were. And that was the hardest thing for me was increasing my protein, but lowering my fat because I was on the ancestral movement, eating really nutrient. And I'm not saying that I didn't mean that in a sarcastic and bitchy way. I think real nutrient dense food is so important.
Mm-hmm.
I actually still eat very ancestrally, but I think that I went way too far on the fats. I was like, well, these are clean fats. Obviously I can have all the clean grass-fed butter I want. And I was cooking with I show and tell, right? My chosen avocado, because every other avocado oil is probably terrible and rancid, but this one is not. And it's amazing. But we were talking about this earlier, 1 tablespoon of this super healthy avocado oil that I love is 14 grams of fat. And people aren't just using 1 tablespoon. They're like, I'm shaking it. If you can see this, if you're not watching this on YouTube, you're missing out. Like drizzle. And when you started making me track my fat and told me I had a limit, I blew through that limit. And then you and I argued for weeks because I was like, no, but these are healthy fats. And you were like, yay. I'm so happy you're eating healthy fats. You're just eating too many of them.
Right.
And since we're show and telling, this is the greatest thing I ever bought in my kitchen. This is a Flarisol Olivia spray. And I put my avocado oil in this and it mists it onto my pan so I can cook. And it's like 1/14 the size, but it works just as well. And it like helps me not use as much. So that one tiny thing that I fought you on for probably a month, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
At least.
Once I finally got to a place where I got below the fat macros that you gave me, the weight started dropping pretty quickly after that. And then I felt like a schmuck. I was like, oh,
but you had to fix your mindset around it. And that's, again, go back to culture, which is sometimes the thesis statement of this entire situation with like your thyroid situation. But we live in a culture that doesn't really support healthy food and healthy eating and macros and in an easy way. Everywhere you turn, there's a fast food restaurant. Everything that we eat is like a lot of the processed stuff, right? There's not many aisles around the supermarket that contain the fresh things. And in that processed stuff is going to be high fats and high carbs. And when you aren't aware of it, and that's what's easy because we're all busy. And especially as a mother, I get it. You're running from this thing to this thing. And then it's like, well, what do I do? Well, it's better than nothing. But what then happens over time is we're not aware. We aren't really paying attention. It just tastes good. It's doing the job. And the overconsumption is there. And when we don't, I mean, this is just biology. If we do not burn at least what we're consuming in a maintenance kind of way, our body's going to store it. That's just what happens. So it becomes like, okay, those healthy fats in that bottle are essential. You have to have good, healthy fats every day, but the amount differs because of the person, and everybody is so different. Depends on their height, depends on their weight. It also depends on their goals. It depends on their digestive system. It depends maybe whether or not they do have a certain condition. And then it becomes, okay, well, what is the healthy amount for me? And so we figure out, okay, well, what are the better sources? Because there are better sources. And then it just becomes the education, which I love so much, because when you know, then you're like, no way. I just hadn't thought of it before. And so I love being able to help people through the whole macros breakdown and what protein is really doing in the body and why that's literally the magic. But then it makes sense. Not enough people get enough because it has to be fresh, usually, and it's more expensive. So it's just not easy. And again, we are a culture of convenience. And that's just, it's not there. But then I get to be like, okay, well, try this and let's set you up for success here. We're going to create meals that are really well balanced so that your energy is sustained, but that your body is genuinely getting what it needs. And then carbs depend on just your activity, to be honest, but you need them, because if you have a nice, gorgeous, healthy amount every day and it's just day in, day out, that's what helps your thyroid too.
Yeah.
Because your hormones are fat created.
My doctor loved that I was working with you. She's functional. She's fantastic. She's helped people get off their thyroid medication. And when I was talking to her about what I was doing with you, she was like, I'm so happy to hear this. And see, we could see it on my labs. Like when I was fueling my body appropriately, the distance of time between when I would go down on my medication and then the recovery rate of my body when it started creating its own thyroid hormone again, and I was ready again to go down, was wild to me, because I could see in my blood work that the more I stuck to what we were talking about, the faster that happened. Yeah. And so your body wants to heal itself, but it needs like good nutrient dense food. And you do need a balance of all of those things. And I saw it firsthand. Yeah. How it works. And so I want this for everybody. Like I want, these habits and the knowledge and the understanding of like what fuels your body. I want it for everybody, but I also want people to have that judgment free, zone to learn, because I think what happens a lot is people go on the internet and it's like, everyone's telling you to go to carnivore. By the way, this is not me talking crap. I know people that have had incredible stories with all kinds of diets. So this is me just talking about what works for me in my experience. But people are being told with constant information, no, that's wrong. No, that's wrong. No, you're wrong. This is the only way. You need to do it this way. And then they feel like they can't meet up to it. They're like watching these 25-year-old fitness influencers who do not have children, and they're looking at them like, why can't I do what you're doing? Well, your life is completely different. You have a family and a full-time job and a husband, and your hormones are X, Y, and Z. Like, you cannot compare yourself to what other people are doing. You have to figure out what works for you.
100%. I think that's my favorite part. I mean, most of the people that I see, I can't say only women, because I did just finish 24 weeks with an amazing man who desperately needed my help. And oh my gosh, we just had so much success with him. But most of my clients are female. And I would say they're normally in the late 30s to honestly 60s. By the way, with saying that, there is no late start. You get to change the trajectory of your health whenever you want. Please do not, again, culturally, here we go. Statistically, women, especially 40 to 50 years old, it is insanely rare that you wouldn't necessarily be gaining tons of weight. You're not really going to the gym. Muscle mass is decreasing. Like, this is seen as something that's semi-normal to do, but it doesn't have to be. Like, I'm 42. I have 2 children, and I work so hard with my nutrition, and not anyway, I guess, so hard, but it just becomes like, yeah, you're mindful. You have to be in order to get the right things to eat every day. But it's very doable to change and make your body do what you would like it to do for the most part. Your food absolutely plays probably the biggest role in that. But again, what are your habits? So if you feel like you're just stuck and you're like, I've tried everything, and I hear that a lot too. I'm usually people's last resorts, which I'm like, can I be your first? We work on just that individual person, and you can train your body to do a lot of really what you want. And if we can't fix it with nutrition, then we've got awesome data now to present to a doctor and say, here's what I've done, which is what I love the most about my program. People love to see the data. I'm not making it up on the fly. I am literally looking at, well, how was your sleep? What did your digestion do this week? Because what you eat is directly connected to your digestion. How was your energy level? How did you actually feel? What about your measurements and your body composition changes? Because the scale, and ladies, we know, rarely celebrates us like it should. We are a complicated organism. We have lots of hormones. We gain water at different parts of our cycle. We're intense, but understanding and seeing those, again, 1% changes and hopefully increases in benefits over the course of the week to week to week, then I know what to do.
Yeah.
And I can adjust things based on what you're wanting and how you feel. And it's just like, it's beautiful. You learn so much. And then my favorite word, it's sustainable. It's not going to be the yo-yo dieting thing anymore. And you're going to feel successful finally and know where to come back to when you fall off track, because it happens with vacations or life. You're not always able to stay on, but you at least have a guide now of what to do.
Yeah. I think the hardest part for me, and I think what I appreciated so much about the way that you approach this topic is, and this is for anyone out there who's trying to heal from something, whether it's autoimmune, whether it's PCOS, whether it's endometrial, like women are suffering right now, like suffering. I know very few women who don't have health issues. And obviously, like, clean living and toxin-free living plays a big part in some of that, which is why I do what I do. But also the nutrition piece and feeding your body what it deeply and desperately needs to continue to heal itself. And one of the hardest emotional things I went through when I started doing this process of slowly lowering my thyroid medication, every time I would do that, I would gain some weight, and I would have to keep the mindset, just stick with my habits. I know what Claire taught me, just keep doing what I'm doing, and it will fall off. The most difficult thing that I have done during that time frame was that I had appearances. I had a podcast episode that was like such an amazing experience. And I was in one of my flare-ups, and I had put on weight and inflammation, and I looked a lot bigger than I was on camera anyway. And I can't even tell you how many comments about my weight that I got on that interview. Like, that podcast host blasted the interview. It was an amazing interview. I was so proud of it. And people were literally sliding into my DMs being like, oh, someone's gained some weight, hasn't she? And I cried over it. It happened again a few months later. I had an in-person event. I had obviously put on a little bit of weight. And the thing is, like, I felt the need, I wanted to go online and like defend myself and be like, I healed my Hashimotos. I am healing my hypothyroidism. Like, this should be celebrated. This process of choosing long-term longevity and health over what I look like in this present moment, in these in-between moments, like, this should be celebrated and it should be talked about. But I was just too upset and hurt by like everyone talking about my weight online. It's very traumatizing. And I know people will say, like, well, you choose to live a life that's online. It's still not okay. P.S. It's never okay to like drop into somebody. I even had people who genuinely followed me and liked me say things to me. And I thought, why would you even say anything to me? But I want people to know that like you can choose your health. You can choose to heal. You can choose. When I'm 75 and 80, I'm going to be so proud of how healthy I am and all the muscle mass that I have and how healthy my brain is and how I don't have osteoporosis because I did lower my thyroid medication. And I'm not judging people who are choosing to stay on it. That's not what this is. This is about my goals and what I want for myself and my own long-term life. And yeah, I just want people to know, like, you can choose you. You can choose your health. And I know that if it's not shitty people online, sometimes it's feeling like, well, I'm a mom, my kids have to come first. I don't have time for myself. I want you to know you do, and you should make that time for yourself because your kids are watching you and being that person that you're modeling for them. And I just feel this need to tell women, like, it is okay for you to take care of yourself and to choose your health, like, as a priority, because I just think a lot of women don't.
100%. I mean, I feel like we can go back to the cultural influence of, well, you're not supposed to. It's okay to just like let yourself go. And that doesn't have to be a priority. But I look at it like this too. If you're not the best you, then you're not going to be the best wife or the best mother or the best employee. Like, imagine the ideal you and what does that look like? And what would that do for you? And I love getting to talk to clients about that. That's how we start. What is it that you're wanting? Yes, most people come to me for weight loss. That's fine, but it's bigger than that. Like, why? And then it becomes, well, I really want to have more energy and I want to be able to go up a slide with my children and feel that I can and be strong enough to carry my screaming 2-year-old over my shoulder and be ready for life, even if you're not a parent. Right? Like, I love that I can go to Target and then I'm running to Trader Joe's and I'm literally carrying groceries without a cart and I'm able to like practically run there. But that's me. But I like that I'm able to do what I want to do in this life. And I feel really good about that because we're often told just no, you have permission. It is almost essential because if you're not going to be happy with who you are and your confidence, then what? I guess, like you have permission. So we give you permission. Sometimes you need to hear that.
Yeah. I think my favorite story, you and I have a mutual client, actually a client that came to me first and then came to you. And I hope to have her on the podcast soon, who's really struggling with infertility. And between working with me and working with you, before I was like literally the day before she was supposed to go in for her IVF, wasn't it? Uh-huh. She found out she was pregnant naturally. I'll never forget that phone call. And, for her, that was her dream. That was her goal. It wasn't like, oh, I want to lose weight or I want to do this. It was, I want my body to feel safe holding a baby. And yeah, I think that what you teach and the support that you give women allows them to have the space to embrace the things that they want and how they want to show up in the world. And I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have your support along the way. And I hate to say that, like, oh, it would have been too hard to like deal with the emotional part of it, the yo-yoing and all of the things, but everyone needs support, right? I would like to think I would have figured it out, but I definitely have been successful and am where I am. And I am very close to not needing any thyroid medication at all. And I am so stinking proud of myself that I have like stuck with that over the last few years. And I have dealt with all of the BS comments and I've just focused on like, nope, I'm getting healthy and I'm doing it for me because my whole goal is I want to be the fun grandma one day. Like my kids are only teenagers, but I want to have the energy to run around and I want to be around for my grandkids for a very long time. And I want to be healthy for them. And I also want to stop some of the generational health issues that I know that I got passed down to me, and I don't want to pass them to my kids and their grandkids. And that's a big part of why I'm doing what I'm doing too, is teaching my kids to not do what I did when I was growing up. That did not serve me. So
I love that you just said that about your kids. I think one of my favorite transformations with my own journey of macros and like finding my best self within this last couple of years, my kids are little, like my youngest is 4. I started to feed my kids so differently. And that has been a game changer for them. I was a teacher for 17 years. I've seen what's going on in schools with what kids are eating for lunch. I know that effect that it can have on them, even in the classroom. And I've just been very I was really sad about that. And I left to do Clarity Concepts like full time. And I'm so blessed for that. But it's crazy because I'm I have that control and I'm able to help even moms to be try to, think about what you're going to give your children for breakfast, lunch, dinner. Where is the protein? Where is the carbohydrate? Where is the healthy fats? Because it's so important for them. And now my girls who are 7 and 4 can literally look at the plate and say, oh, mom, I need a little more protein here. They understand, and then they genuinely feel better. Their digestion is better. They're sleeping better. It is everything, right? You can't put ketchup in a car and expect it to run. You have to give it what it needs. Again, it's just it seems so common sense. And when people do it, they're just gosh, this is actually just basic stuff that we forgot how to do because everyone has told us to mess it up really bad, make it more complicated, when in actuality, it's not like that. If we hydrate every day, yes, this is drinking water. Walk. Get really good rest, right? Move. It's just interesting.
But I think that's the problem. I think that mentally people are that's too simple. That won't work.
It can't work.
It can't work. Right? That's it. So you mean if I sleep 8 hours, if I get really good sunlight in the morning, I'm really big on that for thyroid health, for circadian health and hormones, getting that morning sunrise. You mean if I eat really good throughout the day and take care, and drink enough water to stay hydrated? That's it? I'll just miraculously feel better. And people are no, what supplements are you going to give me? What crazy thing are we going to do? We have this idea that it's supposed to be something crazy, and it's not. It's basics.
I mean, and it's funny. You go back to caveman days, which none of us have to deal with, but the actual human organism as itself hasn't changed much. Our stress levels, it's the same. They were getting chased by lions. We are not, but our brain doesn't understand the difference. So when we're overly consumed with stress all day long, because it's everywhere, our cortisol levels rise. That has an effect on our hormones. And what does that heightened amount of cortisol do to the body? Well, it's a storage component. So automatically that's going against the grain, but it's well, how can we find ways to better that? Back then it was just, you moved and you ate well and you ate what you could and you got water.
And you slept on the ground by fire, red fire. And
that's what you did. And it worked. People survived and, they were probably, clearly they did pretty well because they survived in crazy town, wild animal land without electricity or anything, so it's just fascinating. And I feel we forget that kind of stuff where it's just go back to the basics. But I love being able to help there too, because people forget what that even means. And they need the accountability where I'm okay, did you get your sunlight today? They need me to be good job. You know what I mean? They don't take time.
Human nature. It doesn't change. We all want a gold star.
Positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
We live in a dopamine hit culture too. Gosh, right? Culture. We want the quick fix. We want it now. We want to know that we did a good job. But you know what? We're not doing enough of the good job stuff. You're actually doing probably better than you think. And I love to be able to celebrate those baby wins too, because then you're like, oh, I did good. Yay. It's so powerful. And I mean, I think that's the power of a coach too, is you get so much more than just macro education. It's like, we're going to shift your lifestyle legitly forever. And I love that.
Forever. Yeah. And that's it. Okay. So if you were going to give somebody 3 things to walk away from this conversation, like if somebody listening to this is like, well, where do I even start?
Yep.
What would be the 3 things that you would do?
Okay. So my biggest 3 things is protein. Most people don't even get it in general. So when you're eating a meal, go and make positively sure you're getting at least 20 grams of protein. How do you figure that out? Check the nutrition facts label when able. And you can literally get a baby kitchen scale. It's $3. And figure out, where is my protein source? If you can do that for every meal, that will be a game changer for you. Because most people get, I think, 50 or 60 grams a day, which is nowhere near what people need. The other thing I would say is make sure that you're drinking water, or even the salt water is great for the electrolyte piece, but that varies definitely based on where you are geographically. Hello, Phoenix, Arizona. So we sweat a lot here. But water consumption, not coffee, not sodas, not teas all day, genuine water. I would say at least 75 ounces. And that can be probably blanketed across anyone, even when not depending on like what weight you are. I think that's a good blanketed amount. And then please move. I've had so many clients this past year who are genuinely sedentary, and that 2,000 steps a day is like unheard of. But I feel like if we can just get outside, hello, welcome to the fall. It couldn't be better for people to get outside. You get sunlight too, but find ways to walk 45 minutes. And that doesn't have to be all at once, because no one really.
Or do a bunch of squats.
Yeah. Or do a bunch of squats. Move intentionally. Those would be my 3.
I love that. And those are so easy. I'm going to add a 4th, which maybe isn't like super easy, but maybe is also kind of a mindset thing. Avoid the things that bring you stress. I will just share with my audience that I did take a job. I am going to go back to work, and I'm really excited about it because it means that this business, Toxin Free-ish, and the podcast and my time online, and when I have my Toxin Free in 3 course, it will be from a place of total and complete joy because I want to, and not because I now have to spend all of my time online, because I know myself as a deep empath and I know I can't handle it and it's not good for me. And so I went and made a big decision that I was going to do that. And that is something that I think people really should look at their life and say, are there things that are causing me a significant amount of stress? And is there anything I can do about it? I just really think that people feel like they can't make big decisions in their life like that. And I'm here to tell you, you can move. You can change jobs. You can get out of a really terrible relationship. You can do hard things. And if you know that a massive part of your stress that's impacting your health is coming from something that you can change, I would encourage you to change it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I love that one.
And lastly, go hire Claire. I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
Taking new clients. I'm so excited. And honestly, there's no better time than this season because holidays is coming, right? Which leads us into the winter season, going through the holidays with some support, especially in a food sense, right? Because it's everywhere. This is not the time to shy away. Yeah. It's almost like hit it head on, because then this will just set you up for the new year, which I know everyone loves to walk into the new year thinking, well, I'm going to change this. It's like, well, then let's go. Let's actually do it.
Really like a stupid low number of people get past like day 6.
No, because accountability, 90 to 100%, you're going to pull it off when you have accountability. And I think that's one of my favorite parts of what I do. And I think that's a lot of the reason why people keep hanging around me.
Yep. I know. I'm like, wait, we're done. No. Can we re-up?
Yes. And
And I know you have
time.
clients that tell you they don't want to do it without you.
Right. And then eventually they fly away, right? Because that is what I want for them. That is the goal. But I think there's just something so powerful there, and we just get to make a body transformation and a mind transformation. And it's the best investment that you could ever do for yourself.
I 100% agree. I wish I could bottle you up and give you to everybody.
Oh my gosh, me too.
It'd be
Is the cloning stuff getting any more? I'm in on test run right here. I'll do it. Just kidding.
No, that's weird. No.
I know. It's fine.
All right. Well, I love you. Thank you for being there for me always. And I appreciate you.
I love you. I'm so proud of you. I can hardly stand it.
We'll have you back. We'll do this annual check-in.
That'd be good.
We'll see where I'm at in a year.
Yeah. Love that. But yes, if you want to find me, clarityconcepts.com. I'm on Instagram, but it's spelled like Claire Itty. See what I did there? Yep.
I will indent your website and the awesome. So everybody can find you.
Yeah. It's been amazing. Love today.
Bye. See you later.